All right. Hello, grade 3. So, today we're going to work on some reading comprehension, okay? And talk a little bit about rhyming later in the videos. I have stories that we're going to read, and then we're going to answer some of the questions, all right? So this first story is called Frog on a Log, and I want you to try to read with me, okay? We're going to do some easy stories and then a little bit harder ones, okay? And you'll have one of these for homework. All right, so Bob the frog was lost. He could not find his home. Bob hopped, hear that T? Bob hopped to a tree. Is this my home? A bird sang. No, this is not my home. Bob hopped to a hole. Is this my home? A mouse wiggled, wiggle, 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 wiggled his nose. No, this is my home. Bob hopped and fell into a pond. Splash! Bob swam to the top. He hopped on a log. Ah, this is my home. A bug flew by. Flew is past tense, right? A fly. A bug flew by. Zip! Yum, yum. Bob the frog went to sleep. Zzz, zzz. Okay, so pretty easy story, right? Bob the frog. Okay, frog on a log. So, we're gonna do some questions here. Okay, the first question is, who lives in the tree? Which animal lives in a tree? So remember, he hopped to a tree, and then what? A bird sang. No, this is my home. So, who lives in the tree? Write your answer. And I want your answer to be a whole sentence. You can use the sentence to help guide you. So if we know the answer, the bird, then you'll write the bird lives in the tree. Okay, I don't want you to just answer the bird. We want the whole sentence. And how do we do that? We replace who with the answer and then the rest of the sentence, okay? That usually works. So who lives in the tree? The bird lives in the tree. Okay. Number 2. Who lives in the hole? Now, if you don't remember who lives in the hole, always go back to the story. So when Bob hopped to a hole, is this my home, he said? And then who answered? A mouse. Now, how do we make that a whole sentence? So if the question is, who lives in the hole? The answer is, right, the answer is a whole sentence. A mouse lives in the hole. Now, what's missing? Because here we have the bird lives in the tree. This is not a question. This is a statement. So we need a period. Now, here I wrote a whole sentence, right? A mouse lives in the hole. Okay? So, what is missing from this sentence? Is it a question mark, an exclamation mark, or a period? Good. A period. This is a statement. We're saying a fact. A mouse lives in the hole. Okay. Now, I like multiple choice. They're a lot easier, right? This one you guys should be able to do. Where is Bob's home? Is Bob's home A, in a lake, B, in a pond, C, in a pool, or D, in a hole? You guys should know the answer to this, but if you don't, you always check the story. So Bob hopped and fell into a pond, and he said, this is my home. So his home is a pond. Where is Bob's home? In a pond. B. Okay. So we need to do this. Is very great. It's called like a web, W-E-B, web. So what Bob does when he gets home? So one thing he does when he gets home is he hops on a log. Now let's look at the story to decide what else does he do. When he gets to the pond, Bob swam to the top. So in our sentences here, it says hops on a log. That's present tense. So present tense of swam is swim, right? So swim, but we have to do S because it's he. He swims. What's it say? To the top, right? He swims to the top. That's one thing he does. What's another thing Bob does? So we already have hopped on a log. And he eats. He eats the bug. Okay? Or another thing he says, he saw a bug fly by, but I think we know he ate it because he says yum yum. And he's a frog. Frogs eat. So, right? Eats a fly. He eats a fly. Now, we don't need whole sentences here because the example doesn't have a whole sentence. You can just put a phrase, right? Which is a bunch of words. So, swims to the top, eats a fly, and the last thing he does. Now, it says it in past tense here, okay? It says, Bob the frog went to sleep. How can we put that in present tense? Bob the frog goes to sleep. Good. Okay, so a lot of comprehension is going back to the story to remember what happened and be able to write the sentences. Okay, this is pretty easy. We're gonna list the characters. Okay, who is the first character? The main character is Bob. We can write a frog, you can write the frog. I'm gonna write Bob. Okay, so that's one of the characters. That's the first character we see. Who is the next character we see? And the character is an animal, of course. So Bob hopped to a tree. This is my home. A bird sang, and he said, no, this is my home. So who is the next character? A bird. Okay, and who is the third character? This is pretty easy. I'll go back to the story just in case. The third character, character 3, is a mouse, right? So the third character is a mouse. Now, let's work on problem and solution, okay? So what is Bob's problem? Now let's write it as a whole sentence. So we're going to start with the subject or the person, the character in the sentence, right? The character we're going to write about. So in this sentence, we'll say, Bob's problem is. So I want you to write that down. Bob's problem is. And we have the word problem spelled right here. So. And remember, it's Bob's problem. This is a possessive noun, right? Because the problem belongs to Bob, right? So Bob's problem is, what's his problem? It says it on the first sentence. Bob the frog was lost. He could not find his home. We can just write that. We know that's the problem. So Bob's problem is, he is lost, and no, we don't want to say could not, we're going to say, since we have it in present tense, we're going to say Bob's problem is he is lost and can't find his home. All right, we're going to use the contraction can't. So here, this is a possessive noun. This is a contraction. You will remember this grammar, okay? And the way to remember it is to think about it when you write sentences. So Bob's problem is he is lost and can't find his home. Okay? We're going to do this in present tense for the problem. Okay? How was his problem solved? Okay? How did he solve his problem? This one we have to think. There's many things we can say. How did he solve his problems? Did he solve his problems by yelling and screaming? No. Did he solve his problems by running everywhere and looking for candy? No. He solved his problems. You could say he looked for his home, okay? And he also fell into a pond, right? So he solved his problems by looking for his home. So let's write a whole sentence. Bob solved his problems by looking for his home. Let's just put that. Okay, we won't put the falling into the lake. But a lot of times it's just right at the beginning we think about what is he doing? He is looking for his home, right? In the story, what is he doing? Like once we know he's lost, what does he do next? That's usually what he's doing to solve the problem, right? So Bob solved his problems by looking for his home. And we know this word by because it's a sight word, right? Next to or in order to, okay? In order to meaning like this is what he did, right? By looking for his home. Okay? So some of the answers are here. We got them all right? Swims, eats bug, sleeps. That was a simple way to put it. And then we'll show you. So here they did it past tense, which is okay. We'll mainly do it past tense. I wanted to do present tense. So sometimes it's a very easy answer, right? What is Bob's problem? He was lost. Bob's problem was he was lost, right? How was his problem solved? He fell into a pond, or he looked for his home, right? I think he looked for his home. That's another way he solved his problem. So Bob was one character, bird and mouse. Okay, so I know that one was really easy, but we will do one that's a little harder in the next one. Okay, bye.